So Xi's absence is the talk of the town. Some believe it could derail India's agenda for the G20 summit, maybe shift the spotlight from important issues. But New Delhi doesn't seem worried. Foreign Minister Jaishankar has spoken about the two absentees, Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. The minister said such decisions are not unusual. He also said they have nothing to do with the host, India. Listen to this.
I think at different points of time in G20, there have been some presidents or prime ministers who, for whatever reason, have chosen not to come themselves. But that country and that country's position is obviously reflected by whoever is the representative on that occasion. I don't think it has anything to do with India. I think whatever decision they make, they would know best.
A bit generous, I would say. Putin's decision is indeed understandable. He's a wartime leader. He also has an international arrest warrant. But Xi Jinping's decision is not. He just visited South Africa for the BRICS summit. So not coming to India is questionable. It has all the makings of a sabotage. The United States has alluded to this. Their national security advisor was speaking about Xi Jinping's absence. He said, if China wants to play spoiler, it's their choice.
As far as the question of tensions between India and China affecting the summit, really that's up to China. If China wants to come in and play the role of spoiler, of course that option is available to them. What I think the chair, India, will encourage them to do, what we, the United States, and every other member, virtually every other member of the G20 will do, is encourage them to come in a constructive way.
Certainly less generous. But what about Jake Sullivan's president? Has Joe Biden survived the Wuhan virus scare? It seems like he has. Biden took another test on Tuesday, and that one also returned negative. So the White House has confirmed that Biden will travel to India after all. He's expected to depart Washington on Thursday, and on Friday he will hold talks with Prime Minister Modi. If you think that's early, well, think again. Biden is coming just 2 days in advance. Some leaders are already in New Delhi, like Bola Tinubu. He's the president of Nigeria. He and his delegation arrived in New Delhi on Tuesday. In case you're wondering, yes, he's the first head of state to arrive for the G20. Over the next few days, many more will be landing in New Delhi. In fact, the exact number is still not clear. You have around 20 leaders from member states. Then you have 9 invited countries. You also have heads of international organizations like the United Nations, the World Health Organization, the World Trade Organization, and the like. So simply put, the world will be run from New Delhi for 2 days. Of course, that means a lot of work. You need top-class surveillance, adequate security, proper connectivity, and of course, a lot of pomp. We told you about that yesterday, about what the cost will be. Around 1,000 crore rupees, which is $120 million. Let's take a closer look at the preparations then, starting with the airport. Each world leader will be traveling in their own plane. We're talking about high-value assets. Reports say the government is expecting at least 50 VVIP planes, 50. Where do you park them? 50 VVIP planes. The Delhi airport has around 220 parking stands. Most of the VVIP jets will be stationed there. A handful of them, like the US President's Air Force One, will be parked at the Palam Air Force Base. Will these arrivals hurt civilian traffic? Well, the government is trying to avoid that, but chances are it will. Flights on 4 dates have been reduced: September 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. Airlines have been asked to cancel 25% of flights from Delhi on these days. That's around 160 flights. Some carriers have already started informing their passengers, if you have a flight on these dates, check with your airline, make sure it's not cancelled. And if you're looking to book, expect price surges and disruptions. As for the airport itself, it's all decked up. You can see lots of sculptures, fountains, and murals. All of them have common themes. It's either India's G20 logo and presidency or something about Indian culture and history. So arrival done, now to hotels. Around 3,500 rooms have been booked across Delhi and nearby areas, 3,500 rooms. Some 10,000 hospitality professionals have been mobilized. Again, the focus is on Indian culture, the food, the decor, and the welcome ceremony. All of it has been organized in line with the Indian culture. Across the city, final touches are being added, like painting pavements, brushing up statues, and watering public gardens. The people are also excited. Yes, they're bracing for some major disruptions. At the same time, there's also some curiosity. Most Indian youngsters have never seen a diplomatic event of this scale. Listen into some of them.
It's a time for India to highlight itself in front of the world, and the government is doing a great job. They're cleaning the roads and they beautified the Pragati Maidan where the whole show is going to happen. So I'm feeling great about it. It's a proud moment for being an Indian.
It's a great privilege and opportunity for India to host this G20, and as we can see the preparations that are going on, one thing that is really a benefit of this, that we are cleaning our city, that is really good.
Well, this was the government's idea to democratize the G20, to use this as a teaching experience for India's youth. In fact, Prime Minister Modi spoke about this in his interview to Money Control. It was a long and detailed interaction, but three things stood out. First, his emphasis on the India model of growth. Listen to what he said, I'm quoting. When global leaders meet me, they're filled with a sense of optimism about India. They're also convinced that India has a lot to offer. India's growth is being achieved with a human-centric approach that can be replicated in other countries too. Now, this is important. We've heard about America's capitalist model. We've heard about China's pseudo-communist model. Now, Prime Minister Modi is highlighting the India model. Secondly, the question of G20's future. Again, let me quote from what the Prime Minister said. It would be a good idea to seek the views of nations outside the G20, especially from the global south. Institutions that cannot reform with the times cannot anticipate the future or prepare for it. When it is seen that institutions cannot act against those who violate the global rules-based order, they risk losing credibility. Is that a message to China? It could even be a message to India's partner Russia. Either way, the point is quite clear: evolve to survive. And finally, point number 3. India's imprint on the G20, and I'm quoting again. We are a nation that looks at the world as one family. Our G20 motto says that. In any family, every member's voice matters. Our democratization of the G20 presidency is our investment in the capacity building of the people, especially youth. Again, it's the India model. The idea is to make policy more people-centric, to make people feel like the stakeholders that they are. I know that's a lot to expect from one summit. So let's see what the weekend brings. But before we end the story, here's a glimpse of where the main event is taking place, Bharat Mandapam. These night shots are from yesterday. The whole building is bathed in lights and lasers. The G20 member flags are visible in the front yard. You can also see this new statue. It's around 27 feet tall. It's a statue of Nataraj, a dancing depiction of the Hindu god Shiv. So New Delhi is ready and waiting for the G20 leaders. No expenses or effort has been spared. Now it's all about the execution. We'll be tracking all the updates throughout the next couple of days.